Good evening. Tonight we begin with a seismic shift in the balance of power between the White House and Congress, one that could reshape America's role in the global economy for years to come. In a landmark 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court has struck down the legal foundation for presidentially imposed tariffs, ending a half-century of expanding executive trade power. This historic ruling marks a dramatic reversal of decades in which presidents, regardless of party, have wielded broad authority to shape trade policy with little oversight. The ruling dismantles a tool used by presidents of both parties to unilaterally impose tariffs, sending shockwaves through Congress, industry, and global markets. Lawmakers, investors, and business leaders are scrambling to assess the implications as uncertainty ripples through financial markets and boardrooms across the country. The case began as a challenge by steel importers to Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, which let presidents declare tariffs for national security. For decades, this provision has been used to justify sweeping trade actions, often sparking international disputes and retaliatory measures. Today, the court declared that using national security as a catch-all for economic competition is unconstitutional. The justices argued that the law's vague language allowed the executive branch to bypass Congress and act without clear limits, undermining the separation of powers. Chief Justice Roberts wrote, "Economic rivalry is not a national security threat as the law intended." He emphasized that true national security concerns must be narrowly defined, not stretched to cover routine economic disputes or protect domestic industries from foreign competition. This decision returns trade authority to Congress, forcing a national reckoning on who sets America's economic course. Lawmakers will now face renewed pressure to craft clear, modern trade laws that balance national interests with global realities, and to take responsibility for decisions that affect millions of American jobs. Business leaders and farmers welcome the move, hoping for more stability and predictability in trade policy. However, some domestic industries and unions warn of job losses and increased competition from abroad, raising concerns about the future of American manufacturing and labor protections. The full impact will take months or even years to unfold, as Congress debates new legislation and global partners adjust to the new reality. Economists say the decision could reshape supply chains, investment strategies, and America's standing in international trade negotiations. One thing is clear: America's approach to global commerce has fundamentally changed. The era of unilateral presidential trade wars is over, and a new chapter in U.S. trade policy is just beginning. The case, American Institute for International Steel versus United States, started as a quiet challenge from steel importers. They argued the Trump administration's tariffs stretched national security beyond recognition, turning a Cold War law into a tool for economic protectionism. The Supreme Court sided with the challengers, ruling that tariffs under Section 232 now require a clear, direct link to a specific threat to national defense. Broad economic concerns or competition with allies no longer qualify. The majority, a mix of conservatives and liberals, saw unchecked executive power as the greater danger. The dissent warned this would tie future presidents' hands, but the court drew a firm constitutional line. To grasp today's ruling, we must look back. For most of U.S. history, Congress set tariffs, a messy political process. After the disastrous Smoot-Hawley tariff of 1930, Congress began delegating trade power to the president for flexibility. Section 232 was meant as a Cold War safeguard, rarely used until President Trump invoked it in 2018 to impose sweeping tariffs on steel and aluminum, even from allies. The administration claimed national security, but critics saw economic protectionism and global retaliation. The resulting trade war disrupted supply chains, raised costs, and strained alliances. This aggressive use of Section 232 set the stage for the Supreme Court's intervention. Today's decision closes the chapter on tariff man unilateralism. At its core, this ruling is about restoring the separation of powers. The Constitution gives Congress, not the president, the authority to set tariffs. By narrowing the definition of national security, the court has reined in executive overreach and revived the non-delegation doctrine. Congress can no longer sidestep responsibility. If tariffs are to be used, lawmakers must debate and authorize them. This means more transparency, public debate, and accountability in trade policy. The decision could also prompt scrutiny of other laws granting broad presidential powers. The message is clear: constitutional limits on executive authority are real and enforceable. The economic reaction has been immediate and dramatic, sending shockwaves through both financial markets and everyday communities across the country. Newsrooms buzzed with updates, and investors watched anxiously as the first signs of change appeared. Wall Street cheered, with stocks of import-heavy companies surging on hopes of lower costs and more stable supply chains. Investors saw new opportunities, and optimism spread among businesses that rely on global imports, anticipating a boost to their bottom lines. American farmers, battered by years of retaliatory tariffs, now see a path to recovery and renewed export markets. For many in rural America, this shift offers hope for higher prices and expanded access to overseas buyers, potentially revitalizing struggling communities. But domestic steel and aluminum producers, along with their unions, fear a flood of cheap imports and the threat of job losses. For these workers, the rollback of tariffs brings deep uncertainty, as they worry about the future of their industries and livelihoods. The tariffs created clear winners and losers, helping some industries while hurting others and raising consumer prices. Shoppers noticed higher costs on everyday goods, while some manufacturers struggled to compete, highlighting the complex ripple effects of trade policy. The Supreme Court's decision reverses that dynamic, benefiting consumers and global industries but exposing previously protected sectors to new competition. The ruling marks a turning point, reshaping the landscape for businesses and families alike. Labor leaders are urging Congress to find new ways to support American workers, calling for policies that protect jobs and ensure fair competition. Their voices are growing louder as the debate intensifies. The fallout will be a realignment, new opportunities for some, tough challenges for others. Entrepreneurs and established companies alike must adapt quickly to the shifting landscape, seeking ways to thrive in a more open market. Trade policy's impact is now front and center for every American, affecting jobs, prices, and the broader economy. From kitchen tables to boardrooms, people are paying closer attention than ever before. The debate over how to balance global competition and domestic protection is just beginning as policymakers, business leaders, and citizens weigh in. The choices made now will shape the nation's economic future for years to come. The Supreme Court's decision is reverberating worldwide. U.S. allies like Canada, Germany, and Japan welcome the ruling as a return to predictable, rules-based trade. The EU is already discussing lifting retaliatory tariffs, seeing this as a chance to reset transatlantic relations. For allies, it's proof that American checks and balances work. China and Russia, meanwhile, see opportunity and uncertainty, hoping to exploit divisions but wary of what Congress might do next. The ruling doesn't end all tariffs, especially those on China under other laws. Globally, the decision removes a major irritant and opens the door to renewed cooperation. The U.S. must now work with partners to develop smarter, unified strategies for global competition. The world is watching to see if America can pivot from unilateralism to multilateral leadership. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has handed Congress the reins on trade, shifting a power that has long shaped the nation's economic destiny. This move marks a pivotal turning point in how America will approach its role in the global marketplace. Now, lawmakers face the immense challenge of supporting industries and workers who were once shielded by protective tariffs. They must listen to the concerns of factory workers, small business owners, and entire communities whose livelihoods depend on fair trade policies. The debate will be fierce and passionate, balancing the benefits of free trade, such as lower prices and global partnerships, with the urgent need to protect American jobs and industries from unfair competition. Every voice, from the factory floor to the boardroom, will play a role in shaping this conversation. Crafting a modern bipartisan trade policy will test Congress's ability to compromise, innovate, and lead. Lawmakers must set aside partisan differences to find solutions that benefit all Americans, not just a select few. Beyond policy, this is a rare opportunity to strengthen democracy itself. Economic decisions must be made openly and transparently, with input from citizens and experts alike, not by executive fiat or behind closed doors. Congressional hearings and public debates will now shape America's economic future, ensuring that every major decision is scrutinized and discussed in the open. The true legacy of this decision will be measured not just in economic growth, but in the health of our democracy and the enduring strength of the rule of law. The path forward is uncertain, and challenges surely lie ahead, but one thing is clear. The era of unchecked presidential trade power is over, replaced by a new chapter of shared responsibility. The next chapter in American trade and democracy will be written by the people and their representatives, together forging a future that reflects the nation's values, hopes, and dreams.